Welcome to AI for Markets and Operations. We got Director of Expansion, Eric Forney, here today as the presenter and the trainer. And I'll kick it over to him.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Graham. I appreciate it. I did to see that Thomas and Daisy and Cassie have phones with cameras. I'm a little worried about everybody else. I'm kind of thinking that maybe we got a few flip phone users still that aren't able to get on camera here. Unlike some of the other presentations and trainings we've had this week, hopefully you've been able to attend several of them. I want to make this as interactive and as conversational as possible. One of the challenges with AI is that if we present and I talk for the next 30 minutes without engagement, it'll be best on 2x speed. So I want to dive into to AI for market center operations. So AI for market center operations, of course. Let's start with, especially when thinking about AI, is that always follow TCPA do's and don'ts, right? Making sure that you're calling from lists that are approved, that people have opted in. You've kept records of opt-in. No AI voice calls, auto dialers, and following all TCPA compliance. You can read this and self-police. You don't want to be bailed out for Christmas. So hopefully you can spend time with your family and not have to think about TCPA for violations during the Christmas holiday. So obviously follow those TCPA do's and don'ts. And then, unfortunately, AI can drink a little too much eggnog this time of year. And so when using AI, word of advice is to always pay attention to ensure that you've checked the material and you've read through it the same way that you would any other employee or anyone that you'd be working with before you put out content, especially with AI with hallucinations. Always review what you've created before disseminating AI content, rather than relying fully and wholeheartedly on that. This is getting better, right? A little bit every day we see the quality and the accuracy of AI generated content improving, but it certainly is not infallible at this point in time. So a little bit about me. So Director of Expansion for Keller Williams. I work with the top 150, top 200 real estate companies inside of Keller Williams. Kind of a fun fact for you. If you just split out the multi-site locations and the multi-site teams within Keller Williams, our expansion teams would be the seventh largest real estate brokerage in the world. Sometimes we lose perspective on how big of a company Keller Williams is and how much market share we have in some of the businesses inside of Keller Williams. Just our expansion businesses alone would be the seventh largest real estate brokerage in America. And so my role is to work with those real estate companies that are in multiple market centers and help to lead, guide, and advise those expansion businesses. Some of them I know are in your market centers. I helped Gary and Jason co-author the MREA Playbook Volume 3 and the AI Playbook content. Hopefully, you're already teaching that in your market centers. And if you love it, I wrote it. If you hate it, you can email Gary and let him know that he should improve. And so I bring a unique perspective, having held multiple roles within the company, both as a team owner and OP, a president of the third largest expansion company in the country, and now as the director of expansion for Keller Williams. So we'll bring a little bit of a different perspective to today's conversation. And what I want to cover and what you kind of can expect to see today is that we're gonna knock out three main things, and that is how to conduct an AI audit with your top agents. As you think about this time of year is always kind of business planning season, and agents are starting to think about 2026 goals, and hopefully they've already completed those business plans. But how can you work both with agents that you're recruiting in your pipeline and agents inside of the market center to conduct an AI readiness audit to ensure that your agents are prepared for the direction of using AI for lead generation? And then how do you leverage AI in the operational capacity of the market center to actually just improve and automate the excellence of your market center operations? I'll show you a new tool that Google just released. We have not shown this to anyone else in the company. You'll be the first to see it, but Google has released a new AI agent platform that you'll have access to, and I'll define AI agents here so that we don't get AI agents and real estate agents confused. We'll go through how to do that. And then lastly, how to use AI and data to forecast your 2026 company dollar. I don't know if your salespeople or anything like my salespeople or anything like the team leaders that I've interacted with, but sometimes we can be a bit optimistic, Thomas, about our projections. And rather than being optimistic, we'll use AI and data to actually kind of narrow in on how to forecast what company dollar can look like for next year based on trends. And so what we want to cover then first then is that, what we know is that today consumers are asking AI questions. It's pretty well documented. We don't have to get into all the statistics, but we know that today consumers are still going to Google and they're doing the traditional Google search, and they're also going to versions of AI and they're asking questions. And the question that you want to ask is, are your agents the answer to the question that the consumer asks? Right? The success of the market center is predicated on the success of the agents. And so when you think about the success of the market center, how do we ensure that we make our agents as successful as possible so that they're AI ready? And then how do you have this conversation with agents that are in your pipeline? Because what no one else in the marketplace is doing right now is having that AI readiness audit with agents in the pipeline. And so the easy way to think about this, we could get really complex and we could get really inundated on the nuance and the intricacy of the technology. And yet the truth is we're going to release a playbook that'll go through that. That'll be the second AI playbook that we release, and that'll be AI search, or sometimes you'll hear it as AEO. So we'll have that AEO playbook coming out here soon. But 5 simple things that you can do right away with your agents to audit is you can audit to ensure that, one, that they're cited on a Google business page. And what you're looking for is when doing this AI readiness audit is you're looking for name, address, and phone number. Right. So if I'm thinking about auditing Bruce's page and Bruce is one of the agents in my market center, Bruce, I'm going to go through and I'm going to look at to see is, one, do you have a Google business page? Because if you don't have one, that's the best place to start. But if Bruce has a Google business page, I'm going to quickly take note of what's the name of Bruce's business, what's the address of that business, and then what's the phone number that's allocated and assigned to that business page. Because what we'll find is that AI is looking for a source of truth. And we want to ensure that we've got a source of truth across all of the major websites and all of the sites that AI is searching across, so that it's adding credibility and viability to Bruce as a search and answer result. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to audit then for the agents on my ALC, or the agents that I'm consulting with, or the agents that I'm meeting with my pipeline, is, do they have a Google business page? And then is that Google business page have the correct name, address, and phone number? And then next, for whatever reason, we're seeing that today AI search is relying on fastexpert.com as one of its highly trusted sources for answering real estate related questions, especially as it pertains to recommending real estate agents. Carolyn, I have no idea why fastexpert.com is so heavily weighted in AI search and answer, but for some reason today, fastexpert.com is one of the most commonly cited websites. And if you're anything like me, what you'll find is that most of your agents don't have an up-to-date fastexpert.com profile. In fact, I happened to do this audit with myself recently and found that my fastexpert.com profile was suspended. Okay, and so when the consumer was searching for top real estate teams and top real estate agents in Indianapolis, I wasn't being recommended because our profile was suspended. And it was suspended because the address that we had for the brokerage was different than the address that was with the state for the licensure. And so because there was an error in the address between the brokerage on our profile and the brokerage with the state, our profile had been suspended. And so consumers, when asking questions, weren't being surfaced my business as a recommendation. And so auditing to see is do the agents in your pipeline or in your market center have a fastexpert.com profile? And then the second most common website that's being used to cite real estate agent recommendations is HomeLight. So homelight.com is a source of truth for a number of other third-party websites. For instance, USA Today and US News and World Report are also pulling in HomeLight real estate agent information. And so asking your agents as things get slower, especially in the winter, to go into their homelight.com profile and update their profile to ensure that they have the correct name, address, and phone number, and then also their recent transactions. Okay, so HomeLight and Fast Expert both want agents to update their past closings, and they weight their recommendations when the consumer asks questions based on the agent's track record of sales and success. And so the good news is that your agents can upload a CSV file of their last 4 or 5 years worth of closings in order to help them become more and more cited within AI search. You do that, of course, with homelight.com. And then the two others that seem to show up that are typically not places that the consumer searches, but AI relies on for recommending real estate agents are Angie's List. Now Angie, I don't know what happened to her list. For some reason, Angie no longer has a list, but Angie and Yelp are the two other sites where you're helping your agents kind of triangulate is, do they have the correct name, address, and phone number? And then do they have the correct profile? And if you remember doing the tech audit or the 30-30-40 audit, I'm having a similar conversation with the agents in your market center and agents outside of the market center by doing an AI readiness audit. You can have that same framework that you followed for the 30-30-40 audit and the same framework that we followed for the tech audit would work here with this AI readiness audit. Okay. And so the top 5 places that you want to ensure that get overlooked most commonly are these 5 websites. And I'm looking for name, address, and phone number. What's interesting, Bruce, is that most people, when you go into a webinar and they talk about preparing real estate agents for AI search, what they talk about is that the agents should create content. And the truth is that that's one strategy, that agents should create more content to be recommended. And yet the reality is that before creating any content, we need to ensure that the content is actually going to be recommended based on the trust and the credibility of that business profile itself. And so if we don't have the foundation of name, address, and phone number across the 5 most commonly cited websites, then creating the content is kind of just like shouting in a forest that no one can hear, right? And so we're building this foundation to help the agents to be ready for AI search. And then the second half of this AI readiness audit is having a conversation with agents on your ALC or outside of your company around the idea of, do they have a defined target audience? Bill, if your favorite client to work with is first-time home buyers, are you generating content and messaging around that target audience? Have you defined the fact that your email should speak to the 5 most common pain points around the first-time home buyer, right? Or if you have agents who prefer to work with right sizers and empty nesters, right? Have we defined the 3 fears that every empty nester has when selling their home? Is working with the agents to understand then through that AI readiness audit is, do they know what their target market is? And then have they defined it? And is their messaging matching the market? When you read through Shift, one of the things that Gary and Jay talked about is that when the market changes, what changes is your message. When the market changes, what changes is the message, right? And so we always match the message to the market. And so part of that AI readiness audit is making sure that the agents are matching their message to the market. And one of the ways to strengthen that is today NAR has 31 specialized credentials. 31. You can have 31 different designations or certifications and credentials through NAR. And when the consumer in your market is asking questions when looking for the best real estate agent or the real estate agent to help them with selling their home, AI is weighting agents who have niche designations and specialized credentials above those that do not. And so maybe there are agents. I know, Wes, that there are agents in your market center who specialize in helping seniors to right size their home. It would make the most sense then for the agent who specializes in helping seniors right size their home that they have that senior residential real estate specialist designation with NAR so that they're cited when the consumer is asking questions about AI, because AI is prioritizing senior specialist credentials above those that do not have that. And so one of the big differences that we see today with AI search versus traditional search is that the consumer asks much more specific questions, and specific questions get specific answers. And the specific answers are relying more on context, on nuance, and on a bigger pool of data to make those recommendations. And so when I'm having this AI readiness audit with the agents on my ALC and agents in my pipeline, is what are their business goals, and how does it pertain to those niche designations that NAR offers or some of the communities that Keller Williams offers in order to be cited by AI when the consumer searches? Right, this is a question that we haven't traditionally been asking agents inside of a market center, is whether they have on their personal growth plan adding some of these real estate designations. But today, those designations become more and more more valuable today than they've been in the past, as AI becomes more specific at making recommendations. And so when you think about then how do you provide value and how do you create content to have conversations with the agents in your market center and your pipeline, it's one of the easiest things that you can do in the first quarter of the year and providing real value to the agents is to have that AI readiness audit. Okay. And so when we think about, then you're obviously going to have that audit, and you're going to go through the questions and make sure that your agents are geared up and ready for kind of that foundation of being AI search ready. Now let's talk about agents, but not agents like real estate agents. Let's talk about agents as in AI agents. Okay, so let's get a kind of a baseline level definition of what is an AI agent. Well, an AI agent, one, is confusing for us as real estate agents, but an AI agent is fundamentally software that can take a goal and act on the goal independently towards the outcome. So you give AI a goal, it interacts with other tools, other resources, and attempts to execute on the goal the way that you've laid it out. And so you give it the objective, it decides what steps to take. It's going to use other tools, it's going to check for its results, and then it's going to adjust if the results don't match the objective and continue to work through the problem until it comes to the final objective and outcome. And so what Google has done is Google has released their AI agent software inside of Google Workspace, which you're currently using for your Gmail, your calendar, and all of the Google suite of workplace tools and products. They've released their agent software that you can use today. It's been out for 12 days. You can use this to start streamlining some of your business processes, both internally at the market center and helping your agents who are looking for leverage start to implement AI as a form of leverage, unlike any way they've used it before. And so here's a quick kind of snapshot of some of the ways that Google has rolled out their suite of tools and products to try to improve and facilitate the efficiency and the effectiveness of the way that you manage your Google suite of tools. Is that, you could, if you're someone who lives in your inbox, instead of living in your inbox, you could live in your 20% instead, and set up an automation where AI will read your email and scan your email for every email that comes in, and then send you a summary of your emails at a scheduled time. You can have it notify you when you receive emails from key people. real life story here. Don't tell him, but real life story is whenever I get an email from Gary Keller, I also get a text message and I get a Google chat message because emails from Gary Keller seem like they should be a priority for me to respond to. And so I don't want to wait to sort through the 100 plus emails that I receive on a daily basis to respond to Gary. And so Google Workspace allows you to create automations and notifications when some key emails or some emails from key people are ones that you should respond to. And so you've got all these different ways that you can now think about tying together all of your existing Google Workspace tools by using AI in a smart way to actually buy back some of your time, especially on the operations side. And so let's take a look at a quick video that Google put out about what one of the use cases would look like. There's no audio, so don't be alarmed. And I'm not a good singer, so you'll have to just hum. So you have the ability to describe the task that you want to create. So if in this case, it's if email has a question, if I get a question in an email, create this notification through Google Chat. You're just using natural language to do that. Google Studio will create the workflow for you. And then it'll give you the option to obviously to verify that the way that it's been configured is actually the way that you want it to work. You can see it's then read each one of those emails, flagged and applied a label, and then also sent you a notice in Google Chat. Bruce, what goes through your head when you see that?
Automation,
Okay.
ascension, time saving, making sure I'm working on the really important stuff first because it's
Yeah.
helping to filter that out of the mess, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Wes.
Yeah, well, that with that workflow, is there also an option to draft a response that I can okay and just send off?
Oh
Correct.
man, Wes, you are, I love the way you're thinking about this. Absolutely. So you have the option then that you said, if we wanted to do that, they always tell you never to do tech demos live. And I don't really follow rules very well. So let me see if I can let me see if I can show you there is the ability to do that. So the only thing you would do is you would just change the prompt ever so slightly. We'll build this at the end actually and see how it works. But the only thing you would do, Wes, is change the prompt to where it says flag it with a label and then ping me in chat and draft the reply based on the context of the email. Here's the interesting thing and the benefit of being a Google Workspace user like you are within Keller Williams is that you can also have it bring in any of the context from your calendar, from your Google Drive, from your entire Google suite of products that you're already using, and use that as a knowledge base as well to formulate that email when it drafts the email for your response. Okay, so I think about this as well as when you're thinking about how do you help your team leader prepare for their recruiting appointments. Well, you could create a Google Workspace studio automation to where it goes and scrapes your TL's calendar for the day or for tomorrow, and it will then Google Studio will go out and it will do the research on the upcoming appointments that your TL has, and then bring back the relevant information to help the TL prepare for that recruiting call or that recruiting appointment a day in advance or the morning of, so that they're cutting down on the amount of research time they have to do, and you're able to automate that to where it happens in real time. Okay, and so I've kind of mapped out a few key automations that you could use with AI that are pretty easy to generate inside of Google Studio. And one of them is that you could have you think about your onboarding emails. Anytime a new agent is onboarded, you could have onboarding becoming a trigger to initiate several other steps in your onboarding process. The benefit here is that you don't have to have a keyword that matches every single time. For instance, when the team leader onboards someone or signs an agent to join Keller Williams, they don't have to in the subject line type in onboard this agent. The AI can read the email, understand the context, and based on that context, it can make the decision to initiate onboarding steps and the process that you want to kick off based on the context of the email. Unlike a normal automation where A plus B equals C, the benefit of AI agentic automations is that they use context and context clues to build that A plus B plus C workflow. Okay, so the big difference here is being able to utilize context and use the entire Google suite of products and tools. When preparing for the content that you're pushing out to a market center, every day or every week, you can have local real estate news delivered right to your inbox on a recurring loop. So one of the ones that I have is every Monday at noon, I get local real estate headlines and the 5 stories that are impacting the local real estate economy that are most relevant to me and to my agents. And you can have that not only give you the news, but then tell you how to explain it and have the conversation with your agents about why it's important. Okay. And so you can have it, you can have these automations running in order to streamline your workflow and minimize the amount of time that it takes. I think I've closed down my browser here. Let's see. Okay. So to get there, it's let me give you the address so that you can go to play with it. It's studio.workspace.google.com. It rolls right off the tongue. Studio.workplace.google.com. And again, this is 12 days old. I will tell you you're probably going to encounter some bumps with bandwidth or server bandwidth issues because of how new it is and the amount of demand they've seen in the first 12 days. It's not impossible that when you first set it up that they've exceeded like the bandwidth of the system. But just understand, start thinking about what are the processes that you're doing on an ongoing basis that you could now automate and outsource to Google's new Workspace Studio. Okay. And then lastly, when we think about AI for market center operations, I love to look at this data that's predictive of forecasting. Because the truth is, Wes, is that your gut is great for lunch, but it's not great for forecasting revenue. And yet most of the time, the way that we go through that company dollar report or the way that we forecast the revenue that we're going to make next year is, we look at last year's number and we put together an optimistic projection of how many agents we're going to recruit, and we add a little bit to it. And the reality is that the good news is that we can now use data and analytics to actually begin to better understand how to predict the production that real estate agents will have based on some of their track record and some of their history. And so I think some of these stats are fascinating, and they have a ton of application. And one of them is that the number one predictor of an agent's total volume or total sales volume is how long they've been licensed. And Sherry's like, no shit, huh? That's really revolutionary. The truth, though, is that the number one predictor of how much an agent sells is how long they've been licensed. Okay, and so we see this pattern regardless of whether the market is recovering from the crash of 2008 or whether it's at its peak. The number one predictor of agent production is how long they've been licensed. And so when you think about forecasting, what you see is that it takes year 3 on average for an agent to reach $2 million in annual volume. This is across all brokerages, across all brands, all real estate agents entirely. And what you see is that growth begins to plateau, typically the growth begins to slow down and plateau a bit by year 8. but there's some other interesting data that shows up by that 8th year. And so the number one thing that you can do when thinking about forecasting your agent production and agent volume by next year is understanding how long they've been licensed. It has a direct correlation to their annual volume. When an agent gets licensed also is an indication of how likely they are to either join your company or leave your company. Thomas, I think this is one of the most fascinating things in our industry that we rarely or ever talk about, and that is the idea that the highest likelihood that an agent is going to quit your brokerage is in year 2 and 3. So the flight risks, or the agents who are most at risk, who are with you currently, are the ones who got licensed and joined your company before they ever joined another real estate brand, and they're in their 2nd or 3rd year of being licensed. Those agents statistically have the highest probability of switching companies. And then we start to see this flight risk go down little by little each year until year 8. Once an agent has been licensed for 8 years, their likelihood of switching companies begins to go negative. And so what that tells you then is that you have the ability then to start thinking about how long someone has been with you is how long someone will be with you. What we see is that if someone has been with your company, has been licensed for 8 years and is with your brokerage, the likelihood that they're with you for another 8 years is highly probable. And so this gives you the idea of kind of being aware of what agents are at risk from a retention standpoint. And then what agents should you focus on when thinking about recruiting? I'm just curious, Bill, when you look at this, what if you're helping your team leader craft a strategy around what agents to target to join the company next year, where would you tell the team leader to focus?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Are you good?
As far as like years of tenure,
Yeah.
well, I guess when you had mentioned age is when it starts to decline. Is that
Yeah. So if you wanted to recruit them, which agents at a competing company are most likely to switch to join your company?
Oh, I got you. 2 and 3.
Yeah, 2 and 3,
Yeah.
right? So when you think about, I think about this, I'm not much of a fisherman, but I think about this from that same metaphorical way, is that the best place to fish is where the fish are biting, right? And so what you can see is that some striations of tenure have a higher probability of joining your company. And what we can see is that agents at competing brands who've been licensed for 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years are more likely to switch to join your company than an agent who's been licensed and at another company for 8 years or longer. And so when you think about the return on time or return on investment, we can see that there's some interesting correlation data around likelihood for agents to join from a competitor to joining your market center. We see this show up with production data as well. And that is agents who sell less than $1 million worth of annual volume have the highest likelihood of changing companies. Okay. And that makes sense, rationally. If selling less than $1 million in volume, their likelihood of switching to join your company or join a company is very high. And then you see agents who are doing 2 million to 4 million in volume. And for the first time in industry history, agents selling $15 million and above are at a higher risk to leave than agents who are doing in between 4 and 6 million. And so this kind of gives you, again, understanding is where do you spend your time and resources that have the highest probability of converting. So understanding again, how do we bracket out then where to target our efforts? You see, it's under 1 million, 2 to 4 million, and then 15 plus has this highest probability of switching companies. And then lastly, the interesting piece of data, and what I'll tell you is that you should always follow all employment laws and all regulations as it pertains to anything regarding age. All I'm sharing with is the data. I'm not coloring the data, okay? So as across all industries, not just real estate, what you see is that age has a high correlation with likelihood to switch careers and switch companies. Okay. And so the agents who are most likely to change from the company they're with to joining your market center are typically agents from 25 to 40 years old, and agents from 45 plus are more likely to stay with the company that they're currently associated with. Okay, so agents under 40 are most likely to leave. Agents over 40 are most likely to stay. Now, when you bundle all of this together, then you have an interesting strategy around being able to use the data to forecast not only who's likely at risk of leaving, but also thinking around where should you target your recruiting efforts. Right. So an agent who's been licensed for 1 year and is also 25 years old is a high flight risk in year 2. An agent who's been with you, who's been licensed for 8 years and has been with your market center for 5 years and is 48 years old will probably be with you for another 5 years. You can begin to use that data and those insights to forecast the likelihood of having capping agents either stay with you or capping agents join, and then work with the team leaders and OPs to build a strategy around not only how do you retain, but also then how do you recruit. Any questions on any of this data or any of the AI content we've gone through thus far? Well, if not, scan the QR code. You've got the option to scan this here to have a conversation about maps and maps coaching. If you're not already a maps coaching client, scan the QR code and have a conversation around maps and maps coaching. Okay. The question I've got is, what action do you take based on the information that we've gone through? Wes, what action would you take?
Get into the workspace studio when I have access. I try to go to that link and I don't have access yet through my account.
Got it. Are you trying to access via your KW login or Market Center? Okay.
Yeah. I think I was asking Jim and I about it, and it looks like they're doing a tiered rollout because of all of that. So I just may have to wait a little bit before I see full access.
What comes to mind is what you'd automate? Or what
well, I'm the MCTT in my market center.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of the initial quick question emails, those would be first and foremost. I already kind of have another system that I use for those, but this is more integrated and easier than that. The only thing I'm disappointed about is it won't work with my current email client that I love, but I'll figure it out.
Okay. One thing that I'll tell you I was unaware of, and you probably are aware of it, but I was not until just recently. I didn't realize that Keller Williams had updated Keller Williams IQ and added the knowledge base and the answers to KWIQ. And so I find that it's a much better and more effective resource today to answer a lot of those questions potentially.
Yeah, that and in the Chrome browser, the Gemini button in the top right, it's been huge for help. And I've been talking to a lot of agents about that because it takes the tab that you either have open or you can select multiple tabs that it can take information from to help answer questions or troubleshoot whatever that might be.
Bill, are you familiar with the Gemini button on the Chrome that he's talking about?
Yeah, I'm more of a Chat GPT person at the moment, but I do know of its existence. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I find that if someone hasn't updated their browser in a minute, that they don't realize that there's so many more now like AI integrations directly into the browser with Google Chrome than there was just 2-3 weeks ago. And so I've been using the new split tab view, which seems to be helpful, especially when thinking about processing, right? When you're thinking about transmittal or you're processing DAs and closings, that split tab, I think, option has been a lot easier. And then using the Gemini to share the tab that you're interacting with kind of minimizes the number of tools that you have to have open at one time. And so when we think about AI in the future, AI really will start to see, especially in the next 12 months, AI becoming more of an operating system and an intelligence layer and less of a chat terminal. The way we use it today is much like the Google search bar. And moving forward, we'll see it become more of an operating system where it's integrated into processes and workflows and less of that terminal log. Graham, it's all yours.
Oh, it's great. Mic drop. Yeah, all the Gemini has been a huge a huge help for me operationally. So
I bet.
yeah, thanks for all the info. Thanks for all the engagement with the crew here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone needs anything from me, let me know. expansion@kw.com. Happy to answer any questions you've got, especially with your expansion teams or anything AI related as well.
That was expansion at kw.com.
Yes.
Nice. Cool. I'll put it in the chat and let people hang out and grab that email before we go.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great Christmas.